What is a scary, unsettling fact about you? Story 1. When I was 11, I witnessed my stepdad attack my mom. I was in my room and heard my mom yell scream, so I left my room to see what happened. When I stepped into the hallway, I could see partly into the kitchen, and she was standing with her back up against the corner of the countertop, with a terrible look on her face and a swelling cheek. My stepdad was about 5 feet away, with 3 long bleeding scratches down his cheek from where she retaliated. I guess I didn't know how to react, so I just turned around and went back to my room. That weekend I spent Friday night at my best friend's house. I knew his older brother had a .38 Chief Special revolver in a hidden drawer he had built under his waterbed frame. Before I left, I stuffed the gun into my rolled-up sleeping bag. I chickened out that first night Saturday, but Sunday night, around 2 to 3 a.m. I think, I took the revolver into their room and woke him up by jamming it under his chin. He woke up immediately and kind of reactively had pulled his head back away from the barrel. I pushed it harder into his throat and said something like, "Don't ever hurt my mom again or I'll kill you." I don't remember exactly what I said. I do remember feeling like the world was spinning 1,000 miles per hour around me and that I was weightless. I don't remember anything after saying that to him until I was back in my room. I dropped the gun on the floor and bursted into the hardest sobbing I have ever experienced. Seemed like it lasted for hours. I don't know how long I actually cried, but when I finally stopped, I was drenched in sweat, tears down my entire front side. I put the gun in my backpack and snuck it back into the drawer under the waterbed 2 or 3 days later, the next time I was at my friend's house. Not a word was ever said about what I did by me or my stepdad, but as far as I know, he never touched my mom again. They divorced 3 or 4 years later. I ran into my friend's brother at a bar about 10 years later, and I told him about borrowing his gun, thinking he would just laugh it off as me telling drunk bar lies. He did not. He believed me completely. Even stated that sometimes when I was at their house I would make little comments that his family understood to mean that my home life wasn't great. He's a big biker type guy, and he just grabbed me, pulling me off the bar stool, and hugged me for like 5 straight minutes. He was a great dude. This all sounds overdramatic after reading it back to myself, but it's written exactly as I remember it. Thanks for the chance to share this. Until now, my friend's brother and my stepdad were the only others who knew about it. Story 2. I have 2 lenses in my right eye, so it focuses like binoculars. My doctor wrote a paper about it. Mostly blinded as a baby in my left eye. DR suspected my right lens split, then healed as 2 distinct lenses. Better than 20/20ths in my right eye. Story 3. Growing up, I had a recurring nightmare set in my grandparents' backyard looking at the back of their house. There was just something off about the house. Something mildly sinister. I dreamt this over and over, many times over the years. In 2018, my dad, who now owned the house, went into the backyard to that spot and killed himself. I haven't had the backyard dream since. Story 4. My dad had to sleep in the bed with me sometimes until I was like 10. I had the most terrifying hallucinations nightly. I'd see actual monsters coming down the hall to hurt me. Not some BS shadows outside the window or a coat, kind of looking like something. 8 feet tall monsters coming right for me. When they punched me, I would feel a gust of wind hit me. The gust would get stronger the longer I stayed there. I was afraid it would turn to pain at any time and would call for him to come. This went on from age 4 to 10. One day the hallucinations just stopped. Never saw a therapist or anything. Story 5. That I woke up in the middle of surgery and threw a mayo pan at a nurse before they pinned me back down and upped my dosage of sedatives. Keynote still had retractors, and so I briefly looked like a Dead Space enemy. Have spotty memory of it. Sedation is very hit and miss with me. Has happened 3 times. Once during surgery. Once during a nerve burn, never went out, just paralyzed for about 3 minutes, then started speaking during the procedure. The last was during colonoscopy, seriously painful, and asked the doctor if he was an old scout leader. He was laughing, then asked the nurse if I was within range for another dose of sedative. Story 6. My father hit me, sometimes closed fist. He even pointed a gun at my sister and I and threatened to pull the trigger if my mom left him. He's also a drug addict. That's not the scary thing about me though. The scary thing about me is that my father is in me and can come out. People think I'm a really nice person and I really try to be a good person. But when I get angry, like really angry, he can come out. This is why I don't drink or do drugs. I have to stay on top of it. I have the belt that my father liked to hit us with. He wanted me to have it for some reason. I keep it hanging so that I have to always see it and remind myself to keep myself in check. Story 7. I had to quit cold turkey, that and smoking, on a dime. I drank myself to cirrhosis due to being unable to cope with personal issues. It isn't pleasant. I will most assuredly do painfully, and even day to day I have struggles with my health. I cut out an enormous swath of my social circle. I saved enough money I could afford a house year. Drinking in bars can be expensive. I am a hermit now. I keep to myself. I hope I can find someone who can love this broken, damaged version of me, but I likely won't. Very few people understand it, and the struggles that come with it at the end stage of liver disease. And I probably don't have enough time to build a bond with someone now. It's bleak, but has been eye-opening. The world is much more beautiful. A field of hay in the middle of nowhere would have sounded so bland, but it's beautiful now. The wind dancing in patterns between the stalks, wrapping you in fresh air. It's serene. I wish I was sitting in a field now, even in the middle of the night. I am 1 year sober as of this last October. The only thing I now miss about drinking is the freedom to choose to. Honestly, zero hangovers, the weight loss, the added energy and focus are amazing. I'm in better shape than ever. I just happen to be dying here soon. My drive and want to do things has increased. I'm a better person, but permanently damaged now, with an extremely limited shelf life. I hope you can find the beauty without the pain, the serenity without the sickness. We are looking at the same things just with different eyes. Find a hobby if you can. I got into ring making. Studied with making simple wooden rings, and am now working with silver. It's coming. Good luck, friend. I hope whatever pained you to this point heals, and you can begin recuperating. Story 8. I inherited a lot of money from my grandmother about 2 years ago that no one in my family knew existed. I still don't know where it came from. Her lawyer wouldn't tell me, but it's in the upper 7 figures. My father, her son, got the flat she owned, and we all thought that was everything she had. Apparently it wasn't, but I haven't told anyone about it, and I don't plan on doing so either. I just work a normal 85-desk job, rent a flat downtown of the city I live in, nothing expensive, and live a normal life on my own. No partner or children. No expensive vacations. I don't even have a car, lol. I just don't feel comfortable sharing the secret, and the longer I keep it, the stranger it would get telling it. Story 9. When I was 18 years old, I was incarcerated for 3 years, found not guilty, and acquitted on all charges. I had roughly 12 charges, some of which would have led to life in prison had I been found guilty, but I knew I was innocent and decided to fight my case. My best friend at the time was found guilty and given 3 life sentences. At one point, 1.5 years in, the DA offered me 7 years and 2 felony strikes as a deal, or I could roll on my best friend and go home that same day. I passed and had to continue to fight my case as I knew they didn't have any solid evidence against me. As my parents ran out of money for an attorney, I was eventually appointed a state-appointed attorney who fought for me tooth and nail. He kicked ass and listened to everything I presented to him about why I wasn't guilty. Mind you, I was 18 and I was surrounded by grown men and saw some horrific shit. I kept in contact with my attorney afterward and informed him that I was still doing well out here. He died a couple of years ago. Now, don't get me wrong, I was no saint. I was in a gang and running the streets and up to no good, but I wasn't guilty of these charges. A part of me felt that maybe it was the universe's way of slowing me down and helping me get my shit together. Took a short while, but I've been on the right track. This February will be 20 years since I've been released. Story 10. I'm only alive because of spite. My ex-wife ran off with my best friend who also screwed me over in business in the process. I lost my career and family in the same month and was ready to end it all. The only thing that kept me going was picturing my son calling him dad. Fuck that shit. 4 years later, and I've upgraded relationship and career-wise, and their lives seem kind of sad and boring. Sometimes you just have to hate fuck life to win. Story 11. I have a tendency to self-isolate, and it's damaged very long-term friendships because people don't understand that it's not them, it's me, and that I really mean no harm or have any ill feelings towards them. I just kinda want to recede into my own mind. I feel really bad about it and keep telling myself to reach out, but I don't. Story 12. My best friend tried to kill me when I was 13, and I had to fight and disarm a classmate menacing the class with an industrial nail gun when I was 17. My friends have a running joke that my teenage years were cursed. Story 13. My dog and my mother died in the same year. I was so devastated when my dog passed. That kind of pain didn't even touch the pain of losing my mom. Partially because she had given up on me and life years before she died. She drank herself to death and got sepsis. My dad killed himself in 02. I'm 38 now. I miss them. I miss my dog more. She was always there for me, through so much illness and loneliness and pain. She was my best friend. RIP. Story 14. Less scary and more shocking. But when I was 9 years old, I survived a home invasion where I was shot 6 times. I played dead on the floor until the man left and called 911, and in my adrenaline rush I thought they couldn't find my house, so I crawled with my left arm swinging the wrong way and my right leg limp from nerve damage, all the way to the front door when he broke in from the back of the house. I lived with only my mother, who unfortunately didn't survive. I vividly remember picking out the guy in a photo lineup while recovering in the ICU. I am very lucky to have kept my left arm. I have 32 pins and screws to make up for my shattered elbow. My left leg has permanent nerve damage and I now have drop foot. Despite my physical injuries and PTSD, I am doing very well. Story 15. Not sure if it's scary, but my dad done heroin and died. I probably could have saved him. I went downstairs at like 1 a.m. to get a drink and saw the bathroom door closed with the light on. I thought about pounding on the door to scare him, which is something I would do to mess with him. I walked up to the door, went to knock on it, but thought to myself, nah, don't mess with him. And I walked away. Woke up later finding out he was dead from an OD. Story 16. Was co-convicted of manslaughter with diminished responsibilities when I was 16. It was quite high profile at the time, in all the main newspapers, so I'll change a few details but give you the basis. A mutual friend of mine and my co-conspirator attacked my friend's young sister. We learned about it later in the day after it happened. We went to his home, argued with him, and then struck him once with the flat edge of a hammer. He died 3 to 4 days later after being put in a drug-induced coma. We were both arrested on murder and kept on bail for a year whilst the CPS made their case. As we were both of decent homes with no previous, our lawyer argued anyone would do the same given the situation, so murder became manslaughter. Eventually, I was sentenced to 3 years, did 18 months, and my friend got 5 years and served 3. Although I never hit him, they argued I went along willingly, knowing that violence was probably gonna happen. That's why I got time even though I technically didn't touch him. Story 17. I was emotionally abused by my dad. He died of cancer around 6 years ago, and I felt nothing. I felt bad that he was in so much pain. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. I just remember waking up the day after he died and feeling so oddly at peace when there was no one yelling at me in my doorway. I truly believe his death helped me recover from my eating disorder, and I became so much less suicidal and reclusive after that.